What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for clicking here and joining me live here on TLP Sports Club. This is TLP Live. I am your host, Harry B. The B means billion. I have a pretty good show for you today, guys. We're going to have a live conversation. There's a couple of things going on in college football. Is college football still going on? It doesn't really seem so. Is Coach Prime still at Colorado? Is anything else going on besides Shador and the Cleveland Browns? Man, listen, I got a good show for you today. Guys, before we get into the show, please do me a favor, guys. Before we get into the show, guys, please do me a favor and smash that subscribe button. Make sure to give me the thumbs up. And don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you can get the videos as soon as I upload it to YouTube. All right, family, I got to go ahead and get into this video real quick. So that's all the business I got. You know what time it is. Let's work. BWB. All right, so you got that, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get going, okay? I got a good show for you today, like I said. On today's menu, guys, there's a question that's out there. There's a rumor that's floating around about Coach Prime trying to take his business elsewhere. Calm down, not just elsewhere from Colorado, but elsewhere to another conference. We're going to talk about that, all right? Another question I want us to answer, or a topic I want us to talk about. Is it possible to have a fair football conversation with all of the, I guess, things that surround Coach Prime? Can you ask a fair Coach Prime question and get a fair football question answered from football heads? All right. That's the question I want to talk about a little bit today. All right. And it is free for all Friday here at TLP Live. So any other topics come up, obviously I don't want to call it the elephant, but the dog in the building is going to, it's the NFL. What's happening with the Louis boys? The Louis boys are spread out now in the different states, cities, helping out their NFL teams. If that comes up and we want to update, or we get an update, we will try to share that with you. But today, we want to tap into the college football that is still going on. So without further ado, guys, we're going to jump right into the show. If you are watching post live, okay, you're watching this video post live, let me just give you a warning now. The conversation usually gets a little deeper when I get a panel that comes on, and we're having fun in the chat as well. In the beginning, it's just kind of introductory stuff, me trying to get people to come in. So if you're watching this post live, right, you clicked on this video and it's not live anymore. That's what I mean by post live. That means you can kind of all right. So before I do that, let me go ahead and handle some business real quick. Right there on your screen, join tlplive@gmail.com. The email again is jointlplive@gmail.com. This is an interactive panel show where you can come on here and we can have a conversation about each topic that we are talking about. All right. It is free for all Friday here at TLP Live. So if you come on here and you just like, look, Harry B, I ain't trying to talk about that. I want to talk about this. You bring it up. If it's a good enough topic and we want to talk about it, then we will talk about it. Okay. Even though I do have my own little thing going, I usually just lean into what people want to talk about. And that's just only fair for free for all Friday. It is free for all. All right, right there on your screen. If you're feeling generous, guys, my Cash App is $TLP Sports Club. If you're feeling generous, you want to bless a brother for putting out these videos, working hard, trying to get you different types of content, whether it's the NFL for the Louis boys or it's still Coach Prime over there in Colorado. If you just love this channel, you're like, Harry B, you're doing a good job. I really want to bless you, my brother. I have a few dollars left in the bank account after paying all my bills. Here's the Cash App. It is $TLP Sports Club. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Namaste. Let's go ahead and get the show started. All right. So join tlplive@gmail.com. Call me if you want to join the show. And let's get going. So the first question I want to talk about is: Are you Is it possible to get a fair answer, a football answer, out of football talking heads or football people when you ask a question about Coach Prime? Now, the elements are: there's a circus around him. All right. On this channel, I'm not ducking or hiding. You know what I'm saying? I don't take offense to it. We are the circus. I am part of the circus. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm not worried about people calling us a circus. It's a circus. All right. We accept the circus. I, for one, accept the circus. I am a member, a proud member of that circus. I literally come on here and I and I try to make my case all the time when I hear something. It's like that New York subway. If you see something, say something. You feel me? When I hear something, I see something, I say something. And I feel like because of me and others that are making Colorado content, some of it, it goes all the way in. People have, I guess, termed it pom poms or however you call it. So people, I feel like they're taking that and they're associating it with Coach Prime. All right. And when you ask them a football question, it's very hard to get a football answer because that's how they see Coach Prime. They see Coach Prime with the circus, and their thinking or their mind frame is like, oh, you guys don't know anything about football. You're just a bunch of emotional Prime sexuals, and they think that's Prime. All right. So that's why I'm asking the question. And I just want to know if Coach Prime is ever going to get a fair shake from not football people per se, but like from the people that are around football, from the fans, from other types of fans. So that's the first thing I want to discuss. And to join me now is going to be my guy Phil So Real. He's already on here. I want to just handle some business before I bring him on. For Dama Dot, thank you so much for the I appreciate it. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me take that off the screen there. Fadama gave $2, said, great show, my brother. Thank you so much. I do appreciate the gift. Thank you a lot. Phil So Real, thank you so much for the gift. Get you a gallon of gas. Be blessed, my brother. Thank you so much, Phil, man. You are a blessing to me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else feeling generous, just go ahead and top them. You know what I'm saying? You got to top them. Phil So Real, what up, my brother? Thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate you. How you doing today?
Hey man, listen, I'm good, man. I'm finally able to jump on the live midday on a Friday. I was off today. I got awarded some time off last year, and I got an email from the system saying, "Hey man, you got to use this time or it's gonna expire." So I was
Oh,
like, "Well, shoot, I'm gonna use it today then. Let's do it." So I'm on now. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to having a good conversation with you today.
awesome, man. Thank you for spending some of your time with me today. I do appreciate it. You come on the show so often, people, you can take it for granted that you're like, oh, they're just gonna come on. But now it's like yeah, man, when somebody blesses you with their presence, even if it's your best friend that you always see, never take for granted, you know what I'm saying, that they are in your life. And Phil and other guys and everybody that comes through the chat, I really appreciate y'all. I wanted you to know that today.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And you saying that is already getting me in my feels. My cousin, I love dearly. He stays like 30 minutes away from me. Like we don't even consider ourselves cousins. Like he's like a brother to me. He's
Yeah.
going over to Qatar in November to do some work for the government, and I'm like, bro, we always seeing each other on the weekends and hanging out. And the fact that I have to start that clock to count down is like, dang, I got to enjoy every moment that I have with him. So you saying that already just like um, re-emphasize that feeling. So you dead on with that.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. I thank God that I'm able to appreciate the people that are around me, because sometimes we take the people that are right in front of us. We're so busy trying to grab other people that we forget the people that are right in front of us, blessing us every single day or every week, or you know what I'm saying, the people that are in our lives. So I just
Right.
really wanted to make that a point. And so another guy like DC Carson Music. DC, what's up with you, man? How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. I was in the middle of work, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna drop because my man Harry B is doing a live, and I gotta come support.
I appreciate you, man. I do. I really do appreciate y'all. All right, so this question, I ain't gonna lie, comes from a lot of the private conversations that I have with my guys and the comments that I read and people that are in the comments. When they comment, it's almost as if there is no like. It's almost as if we're not even talking football at all. It's like two different groups. You feel me? It's like two different universes that are out there because I feel like I can't get a real football answer from people when we're having conversations, whether it's in the chat or I'm having private conversations. So this question came up when I was preparing for the show. I said, all right, let's go ahead and lead the show with this because then it's going to lead into other things that we talk about subsequently. So the question, you guys heard the question, um, is Coach Prime, is talking football with Coach Prime, is it a useless thing? Because we feel like the circus is really is affecting people's mindset, and the biases are so strong that I don't feel like people can separate the circus from associating the circus with Coach Prime. And then when you ask them a real football question, it's hard for them to give you a real answer. So let me get Phil to chime in first, and then we'll go down to DC.
So I think overall, I think if you're asking a legit football question, I think the conversation can be had. I believe just human nature. Everybody has their own biases against certain things. So yes, that may come through, but you also have to be mindful of who you're having that conversation with. Like a one-on-one conversation, I think it's a little bit easier to just, hey, this is what it is. We can keep it moving. But then when you start going online, you got people in the chat, you got people on Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case is. I think that's where some of the salacious stuff can start to come in. But I think there can be a legit Dion conversation. I just think that based off what the answer is and the audience that's hearing the answer, that's going to determine if people feel like, oh, he's getting in his feelings about Dion, or he's glazing for Dion, or he's hating for Dion. So it's just a matter of who's that conversation with, and what platform that conversation is being had on.
All right, so TH want us to clarify the question. He says, Harry, what do you mean with a real football answer based on strictly on the field or off the field matters? So the idea is that I think the spirit of the question is, are people able to put away their biases when it comes to answering questions when we ask football questions? Um, I mean, we can just go straight into like the conversation surrounding his son, and if people are able to even see his son anymore. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if people are able to see Shador as a football player, because it's rare to get people to say to just say football stuff when it comes to like Deion Sanders. And I'll tell you the next thing that we're going to talk about is coming up. The rumors that's surrounding the conference. Well, that'll dig a little deeper into that. But that's what I mean. It's like, are you able to, in your mind, if you are a football connoisseur, are you able to separate yourself from all of the distractions that are associated with Prime and be able to have a good give a good analysis when football questions are coming up?
Can,
Because I
can I
think a
can I
lot
ask
of
you a
people,
question though, Harry?
yeah.
So, okay, so I don't want to assume, I don't want to try to infer and whatever, but it almost comes off as like, if there's any criticism of Dion or Shador or Colorado, now we can't separate our bias. And I think there's a world where you can provide real criticism or critique of Dion, Colorado, Shador, and it be based in quote unquote real football talk. So I think what happens is sometimes people try to have real conversations, but the fan base doesn't want to hear the critique or the negative, even if somebody's providing sound football reasoning to have an issue with whatever's going on. So I think we have to make sure we keep that in mind as well, because I think a lot of times, if it's negative, people don't want to hear it. You're hating. You can't separate your biases against Deion.
So I'm glad that you bring that up. And DC, we're coming to you in a second. I'm glad that you say that, you bring that up, but I think that's also part of why I bring this up, because I think it's really hard to get a genuine answer without bias or without criticism, right? It's hard without criticism because I feel like the circus, which is us, right, me included, the circus, we upset people so much that they're not able to separate me and others, the John the Liquidators, the Buffing Primes, anybody that is favoring Prime or even Colin, all of us that makes up the Deion tax or the circus. I feel like we upset people and we change the way that they think about who Prime is. And I'll say this and I'll give it to DC. It's hard for us to even remember that Prime is one of the best football players in the whole football NFL history. And it's hard for us to associate that because of this cloud that the circus puts over his name. So then when other questions come up about who's around him, then the answers get real murky. It gets very critical. It's like you're not even asking people to be critical, but they're just providing criticism for no apparent reason. So DC, your thoughts?
So I think two things. One of them, I think you can have a conversation about Prime, but I think that also, but I don't think you can have that with everybody. Some people you can have it with, but you can't have that with everybody because some people have different levels of love. I think the conversations, for me, they often go between subjectivity and objectivity. Being subjective is feelings based or you're feeling it
the audio was cutting
with
off
how you feel. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
okay,
can.
Yeah, like between objectivity and subjectivity, where subjectivity is more feelings based, objectivity is more factual based. We use data, and then you have it where there are people that deal with absolutes. Like, for example, we can all agree that Coach Prime was, if not the greatest, one of the greatest NFL players that ever lived, right? They ever played the game. Mm-hmm. But I can't say that as far as he's a coach. But some people will want to say that he's the same, but the level that he played at is not at this time the same level that he's coaching at. But they will want you to say that he is the best. And it's like, well, we got to get a little more data to be able to say that he is on that level, and understanding when you start validating that between some great coaches in the past, then you have to sit back and say, okay, we see he can be on a trajectory, but he's not there yet. And sometimes that fans will get mad because you're saying he's not there. So then, like, we get into the absolutes. Like, for example, if we say, well, which is better, Cam Ward or Shador? I may say Cam Ward. Now, some people may, if they're in absolutes, you'll think, oh, you ain't right, X, Y, and Z. But I might be saying Shador is an 8 as far as the QB, and the Cam Ward is an 8.5. But that 0.5 could be the difference between the first round and the second or third round pick. You see what I'm saying? So it's like the nuances. Part of that is because we don't know anybody. We don't know each other, and we're trying to fit so much into a tight space. No diddy.
So,
hey, Harry, I got a question when you respond after you respond to DC.
Okay, sure. So make sure you write it down so you don't forget. So this is the part. This is what really it gets me sometimes, because I feel like a lot of us who are trying to have a genuine conversation, I feel like we're not able to do that because the people that want to criticize or the people that hate the circus, I feel like they don't take us seriously, like as if what they're saying is more relevant when it comes to their objections of Shador or Prime or whoever he has. I feel like when we say, okay, let's just say when you just said, should you feel like Cam is 8.5, right? And then you think that Shador is an 8. Now, yes. If I come back, this is the problem that I have for the most part. When I come back and I say he's a 9, the response to the people that we're having conversations with, right, is all of a sudden they come and then they try to use the circus as a cover for them to invalidate what I'm saying about him being a 9, and it's all of a sudden it becomes you a dick rider. You know what I'm saying? You're glazing. They don't never. It's like almost like you're shutting their ears off from hearing you because you said it was an 8.5 Cam and it's an 8 Shador. They don't want to hear you after that. After you say Shador's a 9, it's like, where in the world are you getting 9 from without even hearing you? And then they go into all of his negative stuff. But we're saying the positive things, and it's almost like the positive things don't even matter. We don't even matter anymore. And it's hard for us to give a defense for why we think Shador is, because everybody else feels like they can be right, but there's no way that we can be right. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. It's so hard for us to get our point across because people are always falling back on the circus as if there is no football conversation and they have all the answers. It pisses me off to the max. It makes me frustrated. I can't have a real, I'm in the chat and I'm trying to make a point about why Shador could beat X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, no, you don't, you're wrong. And we can't say nothing, or we're just dick riders. I'm sorry to just put it out there like that. But it's like, how I say that, why is it fair for y'all to say that he sucks or he's an 8, but it's not fair for me to say he's a 9 and then start giving you all of the things without terming me or deeming me as a dick rider? Then if that's the case, if I'm a dick rider, then you are a hater. You see, do y'all understand the dynamic of what I'm saying?
No, I totally understand what you're saying, but I feel like now the conversation is starting to change because you said, can we have an honest football conversation? But now it seems like your only issue is when people have criticism about Colorado. So now
no. See, that's what I'm saying. This is where it goes. This is where it goes off the rails. DC just said, he gave an example. DC gave an example of, hey, if I say Shador is it's an 8 and Cam is an 8.5,
right?
Then it's, you know, then it's hard for him to make that argument, right? For people, if people don't take it personal and start calling him a hater. I'm just using that very same argument and saying it's the flip side for us who support Shador and saying, if the second that we counter and we give our counter, we're met with the derogatory terms. We're met with your glazer. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I follow you. So here's my thing. I look at it like this. If you're going to have a real football conversation for or against anything, I'm going to listen to the reason or the evidence that somebody is giving for their opinion. Right? We can disagree, we can agree all day, but if you're actually saying, okay, like for example, if you're saying, I don't think Colorado, if we're looking at last year, right? Let's just say we picked week 5 or whatever from last year, and you're saying, hey, Colorado doesn't have a run game, so I don't think they're going to be that successful against insert team. I think that's fair football conversation to have. And then on the other side, for Colorado, somebody can say, hey, well, I feel like because they have Travis, because they have Shador, I think those players can overcome not having an effective run game. That is a fair football conversation to have as well, right? But if somebody's just saying, go jacket, I'm not listening to what they're saying. So it's always about whatever evidence the person is providing. And once somebody shows me that they just talking to be talking, I don't take them serious, and I don't think you should either. But if you and I are having a conversation, and I can come with some sound reasoning for or against something, then I think we can continue having a real football conversation. Outside of that, I think you just need to leave it where it is.
Right. Okay. So then that's where it's at for me. And that's why I want to ask y'all the question. Like, if you can like really dial into what I'm saying and how somebody could feel, because it's like nobody monopolizes conversations. We all agree on the panel that nobody has the right answers. Opinions are based on opinions. Do we all agree?
I think to a certain degree.
Unless we're talking about facts. Like
facts, right?
If you're asking me, 2 + 2 = 4. Like if you start saying 2 + 2 = 10, then I got a short bus for
Well,
you to
yeah,
get on.
but yeah, facts are facts. The fact is Shador was drafted the 5th round, right? That's a fact. We can't deny that, right? So now once we get beyond 5th round, then it becomes something else. But the thing, what I'm saying is the circus. I'm embracing the circus now. Okay, just know that I'm a genuine person. For the circus, when the circus start to, I feel like some people, right, when we're having these arguments, they can go into their bags of, once we get off the hard facts, they can go into their bags of providing what they call quote unquote facts. It sounds like facts, but it's not necessary facts. It's just opinions that kind of are skirting on the outside of facts. It sounds like facts, but there's no actual facts around it, right? Once we get into the opinion, people turn us off because our opinions don't matter anymore. It's like they monopolize the opinions because we're the circus. Does that make sense?
You're only looking at it from the perspective of somebody saying something positive about, somebody saying something negative about Colorado, because there are people that will buy into certain things, believing in Prime, and don't use it based off of like sound reason or logic. Is that a fair assessment as well?
Well, I
Because you
don't think,
can't have
I
it
don't think
both
what I'm
ways. You
saying
can't.
is
You
about
can't. You
negative or
can't.
positive. I think what
But
I'm getting, what I'm really getting at is the fact that they try to monopolize the conversation as if what opinion they're providing is more poignant or it makes more sense because they're being critical. If I'm being,
But
you
that's
know
my
what I'm saying?
point.
Like if I'm
That's
not
my
being
point.
critical, then it's like, oh, you're just a glazer. And it's because it almost seems like criticism is more factual than actual saying, being positive and saying, no, I see it this way, because we can never be on the opposite side. The opposite side is glazing, and you're always right. If that
I'll
makes
give
sense.
I'll give it from my perspective. All right. So let's say, for example, if we were having a conversation and you said that you believe that Shador was a 9.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so if we're sitting here saying, if you said I feel, I'm not gonna push back on that because that's your feeling. You
Mm-hmm.
love Shador. You love Shador. The community loves Shador, and I love Shador as a person. But I also am. But understand that sometimes some people are looking at is that what I feel. Like in the military, I would see stuff like I feel this, but I know this is going to happen, and whether what's right or wrong is about to happen, I still have to deal with the fact of this is probably going to be the reality. So let's say, for example, we're having a discussion and it's a heated debate, and you say the 9. I sit back and I say something. Well, I believe that Jackson Dart is a 9.1.
Mm-hmm.
And then the conversation goes, "Get out of here, Jackson Date is garbage." Now we done gotten into we start getting into a circus. Or let's say, for example, somebody says that Shador is I believe they got it wrong. Shador is the top QB in the draft, and that now we're into something where we're going, okay, the data that we have available, and not saying that Shador isn't that, but the information that we have available, which mainly is the draft position, it says that does not validate that. So now we have some strong information. And again, I'm not saying the NFL gets it right, because the NFL, think about this. People say, well, Shador won the Johnny Unitas Award. And that's true. But Kenny Pickett won the Johnny Unitas Award too. And you see where that is. So we were sitting there arguing between those two. We can look at Kenny Pickett's record in an NFL and say, oh man, this ain't gonna be good. But Shador doesn't have a record in the NFL.
Hold it right there. Hold it right there. You see where you provided facts and then it went into opinion.
I do believe that, but
not that you believe it, but I'm just saying this is where it gets a little murky, because you just said that the Unitas Award was won by both people, but then one did not turn out the one did not turn out so great. So you're using that and saying you see how that turns out. Right there, that portion of it, right? Because I pay very close attention when I'm having conversations. That little portion of it changes the color of the conversation, and it seeps into opinion, because you can no longer use that as fully a factual thing, because You haven't seen Shador in the NFL, so that second portion of it doesn't make it right for Shador that even though he also won the Johnny Unitas Award, that he's going to be a bust just like Pickett. Does that make sense?
That is true. That's
No,
true.
but that's I don't think
that.
that's the argument. I
That
think
wasn't
the
what I was
argument
saying.
is just because somebody wins an award doesn't equal success in the NFL. We've seen Heisman Trophy winners fall off a cliff when they get to the NFL. We've seen the Biletnikoff, Doak Campbell Award winners win awards in college, but it doesn't always translate to the NFL. And I think that's the point that DC is making.
That is the point I'm making.
We can be happy that he won the award, but just because he won it doesn't mean he's going to be successful. Just like because Shador got picked in the 5th round, that doesn't mean that he's a trash quarterback. Shiloh went undrafted. They're saying he's turning heads with the Bucks. So just because you go high or low, depending on whatever side of the spectrum it is, good or bad, that doesn't automatically equal that something is going to be good or bad for somebody. We have to wait and see.
Perfect.
And I think, unfortunately, that's where we are.
Keep it right here. Keep it right here.
All right, let's go. Let's do it. I like.
So just keep it right there. That's what I'm saying. I'm talking for a lot of people, right? I'm talking for the base and the circus. I'm the representative for the circus right now. Okay, if we stay right there, this is where people get mad at us. You are totally okay to state the fact that the Johnny Unitas Award does not guarantee success. That right there is an opinion, not a fact, right?
I mean, what do you mean?
Okay,
because we have evidence of guys that have won the award that weren't successful in NFL. We have evidence of guys that have won it and were successful in NFL.
Okay,
so it's not an exact science.
Now let's keep it right. What you just said that right.
Okay.
The thing about when you're in an argument, if we take the affirmative, let's say we take the opposite side of that argument and we say Shador won the Johnny Unitas Award, that qualifies him for X, Y, and Z. And we start telling you he's won all of these awards, and this is why he's going to, not because of the award, it's just an argument to say that if he won the award, that puts him in a category of he's not just a regular player, he's a good player, and X, Y, and Z. And we go into praising him for those awards, and then we say he is going to succeed. Because we use the award to solidify our argument, right? And then we go further and say, this is how he's going to win. We get the grunt of the people getting mad at us, and they just get stuck on, it doesn't mean, but we're just using the affirmative to make our point to say why he's going to be successful, if that makes sense.
No, I see your logic, and in all honesty, I have no pushback against that. I'm going to, I guess, build on it. I think what happens is when people are having a conversation, let's say you're listing out 5 reasons why you think Shador is going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
People will find the one thing they feel they have the strongest argument against and will hone in on that. So whether or not it was the Johnny Unitas Award portion, whether or not it was he was the most accurate quarterback in college football history, whether or not it was he won 100 or he broke 100 records at Colorado, whichever argument people feel like they can attack the most, that's what they're going to do. So I have absolutely no pushback to what you're saying. That makes plenty of sense. But that
is the case that I'm trying to make here.
But I also
hey Phil, just hold on. That is the okay. Go ahead, finish your thought, and then I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say, but I think we have to be fair and say the same thing happens on the flip side when somebody's providing critique for Shador. So as long as we can agree on that, we're good.
Yeah, we can agree. That's what I'm saying. See, that's when it comes to football. Because in my brain, I'm like, okay, so it's okay for you to set up your argument and use the flip side to say why he may not succeed. But why are you getting mad at me for trying to use the opposite side to make my argument and tell you this is why he's going to succeed? And then people get mad because you're trying to let them know, hey, you're using the opposite to make your point. But don't get mad at me for using the opposite to make my point to say why he's going to succeed, because it's 50-50. You're providing the criticism. I'm providing you the positive energy to let you know, yes, there is evidence that dudes have won these awards and they were not successful. But it doesn't mean that we have to apply their non-success to Shador. I'm just telling you, because of his awards is solidifying why I think he's good enough to start and he's going to be good. You can't push back on that if I'm like, I'm accepting your argument, but people don't want to hear that. Once we get into this space, once we get out here and people are just throwing stuff out, then the cuss words start coming out. Then the epithets start coming out. It's like, you an idiot. You don't know anything about football. You're delusional. Then it's like they get personal. So they start throwing personal shots. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, but you just told me that people don't always win. And I'm trying to tell you, but yeah, the opposite can also be true though. But people don't want to hear us. That's what I'm trying to defend my base. I'm trying to talk for the circus. Call us the circus. I accept it. I'm trying to say the circus, just like you guys feel entitled to your opinion and you can back it up with facts. I can use the same facts and just turn it around and say, this is why I believe so, without y'all saying we're glazing or we're dick riding.
But watch this now. We're having a conversation, and I'm not going to call no names, but we already have a comment where somebody's saying nothing has changed with these two dudes. They always take a positive and make it a negative and call it criticism. And that's not even happening in this conversation. Because if
this is very productive, this is very constructive. Yes, I like this.
Yes, but
we're ironing a whole lot of stuff out, and I'm feeling good about it.
Right, but now when you get to a point where if somebody's making those things, or people say hater, because if you'll notice, like once somebody says hater, then it's like, all right, you just resulted to a personal attack versus basically bringing some fact to support your argument. Now we get to a stuff where it's personal. So yeah, with barbershop, I'm gonna call you a glazer. I'm not gonna call you a D rider. I might call you a D scooter on, but I'm not gonna call you a complete D rider. And the thing but the point is, I don't necessarily mind if somebody says hate or stuff like that, because at the end of the day is I generally try to come from a factual standpoint. So let's take, for example, because here's the thing I would say, Harry, is this. Here's the other side. What people will say, I said Shedeur is an 8, which is great, but folks will call that hate. That's why you have wind up getting the pushback, is because it's like, how do you have an issue with an 8, and I'm saying Cam Ward is an 8.5? Like, how is there an issue if I can't be, I have to be over complimentary? And I think that's the part that sometimes I speak to, is that it's such an absolute. It's like Shedeur is the greatest QB in this draft. Shedeur is also, and I'm saying he's good, but out of all of them, not one of them have taken the snap yet. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from, is that I get what you're saying, and I totally get why the community can be upset. And there's another element to it, and hopefully we'll get into it, of why I feel people are so passionate about it. But basically what I'm saying is, if I say that, if somebody's saying that Shedeur, hey, I don't like this or that, because I don't think anybody's saying he shouldn't be in the NFL. I think just some people are saying, hey, some of those rumors, they have a tendency to want to go, if some of these things are true, not saying they are, but if they are, I can understand why he is at a 5th round. But then we can also sit back and look at his talent and his athletic ability and say, ain't no way. So you see, like, we're looking at different things and coming to conclusions.
Right, but okay. Again, like I told you, I'm speaking for the circus. I'm speaking for us, for those of us who are supporters. And supporters, it's going to be rare that supporters find criticism, because there's enough criticism, but the supporters are going to be the one that are the opposite of the criticism. What I'm trying to translate and what I'm trying to articulate for the circus, I hate that name, but I'm going to just use that for now, because I think that's what makes people upset, because the circus is what people are associating. They see circus first. They don't see greatness in prime. They see circus first. So it really impedes their mind. And then when they answer football questions, then it's always from the base. This is what I'm actually seeing a lot. The conversations are mostly is mostly circus based. They're never answering or talking about football. So I'm speaking for the circus, and I'm saying, hey, when you guys get angry, just remember the reason why you're getting angry is also the reason why we get angry. So don't make it a one-sided thing. Don't think that you have the monopoly over your criticism and it's okay for you to criticize, but it's not okay on the flip side for us to praise. If we both can say, hey, if you call me a glazer, I call you a hater, and we both understand that we are in the right to call each other that, then we can move on with the conversation.
But
the people that criticize don't ever see it that way. It's almost easy for you to say glaze, but it's not easy for you to accept hate, because glaze is the opposite of hate.
I think we're going back into the point where it's like, where do you put your energy at? Because I feel like if you are actually trying to have a real football conversation, and then you start finding people that are on the fringes, or excuse me, that are on the extremes, either for or against, then we just need to leave that conversation alone, right? But if you and I are having a conversation, I don't think you've ever heard me call somebody a hater or a glazer on here. I don't go with name calling. I try to push back based off of what I feel for or against the argument, right? So when I'm having that conversation, I don't care about all that extra stuff. So I think when you're talking about the circus is not where you have real conversations. The circus is where you go to have fun and be entertained. So if you're simply talking about the circus, then you're going to need to expect some glazing, some deriding, and some hating, and all the other stuff going on. But if you're trying to sit down at the table and have a real conversation, man to man, woman to woman, him to her, they, them, whatever, then I think we can have some real football talk.
All right, so can I interject something?
Hold on, before you go, let me just say, see, there are noble people like Phil, and then there are unrealistic or people that are not fair to have questions or to have conversations, because, like I said, Phil, while on one hand, I find you as a noble person who can have a conversation, there are people, for the majority of people are not so noble and rational, right? So most people are not rational because for some reason, either their self-esteem or how they grew up or whatever is going on in their head, they feel like a conversation is a battle that they have to win, right? So we can never come to a place where if we're having a good conversation, it's a give and take. If it's a barbershop conversation, we have to recognize that it's a barbershop conversation. A barbershop conversation is like battle rap. Battle rap is about punchlines. Who can hit the hardest? Who can get in the biggest jabs and make the crowd go wow? That's who wins that battle. So there are times where you're trying to have a good conversation, and it's not necessarily battle rap or barbershop talk. There are people out there that are not able or capable of even doing that. Because the second that you start saying, these are my reasons for liking the Sanders family, or for liking Colorado, or for liking Shador, for him to start, that glazes right there, right? So that when I say the opposite, and that TH asked me a question earlier, when I say hate is the opposite or glaze is the opposite of hate, is how we perceive the things that people are saying. If y'all understand where I'm going with this, it's like if you say, when I give you my reasoning for the way I support the Sanders is glazing, then when you criticize, I have the right to say, well, your criticism is based on these type of things that I determine as hate. And I'm not saying you personally, but there are, when we're having a general conversation, people are entitled, or they feel like they're entitled to, or that they can monopolize conversations, because criticism you have a badge of honor for criticism. But if I'm just providing positivity, then I'm the one that's glazing. Then I'm the one that has the problem. Like, because you're criticizing, oh, here you are, you're criticizing, you're the real one. And because I'm saying, no, I don't see it that way. Oh, now you're delusional. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
I do, Harry, but I'll give you another example. So personally, for me, I don't take none of this personal. I don't. At the end of the day, it's a conversation about stuff that it does have a lot of opinions and assumptions in it. If you're getting pissed off over opinions and assumptions, and they're not very fact-based, that's not, because at the end of the day it's going to be proven on the field one way or the other. We're going to get to see and validate who is right, who is wrong. If you right, You supposed to come and clown me hard, and guess what? I'm supposed to eat it. Now, if you're wrong, I'm probably gonna be condescending to clown you, but I ain't gonna come in this. I will say little things because I like to kind of breadcrumb it. Y'all know that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing I would say is, I think when we get into the problem is like, for example, I can say, but Phil and I both said Alabama's going 9-3, and that's exactly what they did. Why? Because we knew what their team was. We also had a thing of, yeah, Milroe did some good things, but I don't see him being drafted high. That's exactly what happened. So it's a real, and if somebody said Milroe's a scrub, I'm not gonna push back against that because I know he's got he's got some things that if he does
was
not.
the 9-3 an opinion or was that facts?
That wound up being a fact.
No. I said when you said it, was it an opinion?
It was an opinion.
Okay. So then when somebody says Colorado's going 12-0, is that an opinion or a fact?
That's an opinion. But hold on one second.
Okay, it's an opinion. But then you get mad when somebody says 12-0, you get mad and you clown the person.
But my point.
At the same time, people are saying they're just saying opinions.
Right, but then when you say 12-0, and I say, well, I don't see that. I'll say 6-6, and then somebody, not you, but somebody will say, well, that's because you're a hater. You see how that conversation changed. You can say if you said to me that Bama was going to go 8-4 or even 7-5, I wouldn't have pushed back with you at all. But if I were to say something like that about Colorado, now I'm at a hater. So I get what you're saying. But what I'm also trying to point out is that sometimes if you say, like, for example, if I say, I think Shedeur is a great quarterback, but it ain't finna be good in Cleveland. Some folks will take that conversation and say, well, you don't believe in Shedeur, he, that kind of stuff. That ain't what I said because they'll never ask, well, why are you saying that, DC? And I would say, well, because basically that has been for the past 20 years where quarterbacks have gone to die, and sometimes they'll throw you out there when you ain't prepared. So it's not to a point where I didn't make that comment because I don't have faith in Shedeur. I think Shedeur can start and win games. Now, how many?
Do you remember, DC? Do you remember when I separated the fan base and I put labels on each one?
Yes,
so we have to understand there are different levels of fans,
right?
And when we're having football conversations, we cannot expect every fan to respond the same way.
Right, Harry. But how do you know who's who? You don't know that.
You know who's who. You know who is who because if you say something like, I don't think. Like you just said, it's a good situation in Cleveland, and somebody says you are a hater, you already know what type of fan that is. So it's coming upon you not to try to press that person or not get upset. Just move on. At that point, you know that you're not dealing with a football person. You know that you're dealing with somebody who's in a different category. So that's why I broke down the categories of the fans so that we can understand we can have constructive conversations and great football conversations, especially here at TLP.
But let me
not with other platforms. I'm not talking about no other platforms.
Right.
I'm saying when we're having conversations here, we have to recognize who the fan is and not go at them personally. The second we recognize, oh, okay, that person is in this fan base or that person is this, then you can just know exactly how to continue.
Right, but let me give you an example. Let me give you just an example. For example, one of the issues, and it's just a discussion point. This is not what DC believes. This is just stating what has occurred. All right. So what happens? I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
The pushback that some of the scouts were, and a few of the analysts that would say stuff they were saying with Shedeur, one of the things was if you bring him in, you got to bring him in as a starter because if you bring him in as a second or third string, it's just going to have all the attention is going to be focused on the backup rather than the team as a whole and the starter. And some people saying, so we don't want the circus. And I think more of it was meaning the media circus, but also some of the fan circus. So a lot of teams did. So that was that, or was that not a thought that we heard that some teams had? A lot of the teams had. What? Yes or no? and then I'll complete what I'm saying.
It was breaking up just a little bit. What was the question?
Okay, what I was saying is that some of the teams were apprehensive about Shador because they were concerned if you don't start him, if you're gonna have him as nobody wants the second or third or fourth string quarterback to be sitting here sucking up all the attention, and they don't want the media circus. Do we know that people actually said that, or they believe that? Is that correct?
People believe that they didn't want the circus?
They believe if you didn't start him and you made him second or third string or fourth string or whatever, that you are going to have a media circus. If you don't start him, you'll have a back. If he's not the starter, which is okay if it's a starter, but if you don't start him, you'll have a backup that will be getting all the media attention. Did we not hear that was a concern of some teams?
Yeah, yes. But,
right,
but this conversation,
No, I'm going somewhere with it.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So the point being is that's exactly what happened. The Browns picked him. They ain't talking about Dillon. Very little bit about Flacco or Pickett. They're talking about that. So what they said of why they didn't select him is exactly what happened. So I'm using that as an example is that if I were to try to have a conversation in that, I'm not trying to have a conversation, I'm pointing it out, then people will start getting into what he shouldn't have had, he had X, Y, and Z, and then we get totally off the rails over a conversation. We can get into where he should have been or shouldn't have been, but if we're sitting back having an authentic conversation, we have to acknowledge that was the concern of the team, some of the teams out there, though there was, unnamed sources. But that's exactly what wound up happening. So that's what I would say to the fans is that you got to still respect that's their business. And then if somebody's saying that doesn't mean that you hate Shador. It just basically means is they had a point that's been proven.
Can I chime in real quick, Harry?
Yeah, go ahead because there's something we gotta uncover here. Go ahead.
Okay, I like the I guess the narrative or the conversation you're having.
Hold on, Phil. I got to do something. Hey, Shador should have been drafted in the first round. He's super awesome, and he can throw the ball 100 yards down the field.
Man, what are you doing, man? Stop, man. I'm trying to have a serious conversation. Don't do that, DC. No, man. Like, don't do that. I'm trying to have a serious conversation without all of that, man. Come on.
Let me finish. The first two parts, I believe. The 100 yards was a joke. The point I'm saying is I've been sitting here talking for a while. We're having a conversation.
But you're in the comments and you're trying to interrupt the conversation with
part of what we're talking about deals with the conversation where it's to a point where I'm using that to point out is that I have said 4 or 5, and I'm intentionally saying that I think Shador is a great quarterback. But it's not.
Don't harp on one person's comment in the chat.
And understand this. I'm okay with it. They can call me whatever they want. I'm just basically saying we
need to move the conversation down the line without having to address people.
Yes.
You feel me?
I agree. But what the point I'm pointing out is, I don't have a problem with that. That's not it. What I'm showing is that that's a side of when you listen to other people talk about Colorado community, that it's like even if you give praise and there's praise there, it doesn't afford you the opportunity to maybe say, hey, a but, or let's say that. So anyway, I get what you're saying.
Look, Phil, I'm going to bring you in a second. Look, there are people in the fan base that only want positivity. They're going to express that when they're in chat rooms or they're in watching videos and they're hearing stuff. They only want praise. Then there's the fan base that talk football. It's not about hate or anything like that. They just talk football. And if you bring up legitimate concerns or something that you saw, they're going to express that, but you're not going to hear hate. You're just going to hear, well, these are my concerns, and if he changes this, then X, Y, and Z is going to happen. Then
let me ask you this, Harry.
I mean, then you have your people, you got your praying aunties that are not here for football. The second they hear, I'm not talking about the ones that know football, that can talk football without any bias. So I'm talking about the aunties and the uncles that are not here for football. They're also in the conversations, we got to be also mindful of those people.
Yes.
We can't get upset with the people that are not here for football. They just want to hear the positivity. You got to leave that alone.
Well,
If
no,
we're
no, but
talking
here's
football, talk football. Leave
Right.
the aunties or the uncles who just want to hear
Right.
positivity. Let them be.
I don't have no problem with
Don't
that.
take it personal.
I'm not. Like I said at the beginning, I don't take none of this personal. Why would I?
But then don't address it. If you see it, don't address it.
Well, that's
what I'm saying.
But
if you address it, that means you're taking it personal.
No, that doesn't mean I'm taking it personal. What it means is that I made a decision to address it because it's part of the conversation. Now, I respectfully, as the host, I get it. The point I'm making in that is that I don't have a problem with that. What I'm saying is that if we're having a conversation and then those little things come up, like we're sitting here trying to talk about having a football conversation, and sometimes how the detractor does. Had it been any other thing where we want to talk about, let's say, depth charts and stuff like that, I would have nothing to do with it. But what I'm using that as an example is that some people, they ain't gonna let it go. Am I gonna mention anything else that's going on in the chat? No, because we've already established that. The point I'm making is that, let's say, for example, if we're in a conversation and everybody's doing pom-pom shaking, then eventually that conversation burns out quickly. So sometimes there's some people like me.
If we're shaking pom-poms, then we know that that's not a football conversation. That's a praise. You know what I'm saying? That's a praise conversation, right?
But what I'm saying is,
we gotta know that.
Yes. But what
love,
I'm saying,
I feel like we're talking in circles at this point.
Right. But I'm about to end it and move on to it. But I'm also saying is that sometimes there's some.
This is the whole point why I'm having this conversation. I hope y'all know.
Yes, but sometimes that when we have conversations, you know how the barbershop is. Somebody will come along and they'll just say, "All right, I'm gonna play antagonist role for a little bit, just for fun." It doesn't mean that you don't like the team. You're just deciding to play that. So that's the ultimate point within this interruption I have, is that sometimes when somebody's coming, it's not that they're trying to be negative to a point where you've shaken the pom-pom. So they're just trying to inject something to make the conversation lively. But that doesn't mean they don't like it. I rest my case.
Okay, all right. Look. Okay, so the original reason why I brought up the topic, sorry, Phil, we stepped on your whatever your thought is. I hope you remember it. But the original reason why I bring this up is because we're now in a whole nother phase when it comes to Colorado and it comes to Prime. Prime is still doing college football. The Louis boys are now in the NFL. There's going to be diverse conversations that are had. I feel like unfairly, some of the people that are here for Shador, let me just call them praying aunties and uncles just for the sake of conversation. The praying aunties and uncles are being attacked and they are being known as the circus. And those people are casting a shadow. I mean, you can hear it from analysts. When they talk, it's almost like Prime is not even a football person anymore. So those people are casting a shadow over Prime and what he is trying to do at Colorado. So I feel like, we have to be able to take this into stride. Not everybody is here for football. Some are not. You can literally see it in the comments. The second you say, okay, I feel like his arm strength is not the same. Listen to what I'm saying. I feel like his arm strength is not the same as Jackson Dart. I didn't say his arm strength was weak. I didn't say it was strong or nothing. I feel like his arm strength is not the same as Jackson Dart. Right there, the person that is here for not football, they'll say you're a hater. Not in football commentary, that's not hating. You're just making an assessment, right? So we know how to categorize those people and put them in a place where we say, okay, you know what? There's a time where I can interact with this person and not hate on them, not go at them hard, not call them any names, not say anything. I just know that who I'm dealing with. I've been doing this YouTube thing now for a while now, and I know now how to apply grace to who I'm talking with. That's why I want to have this conversation, because I feel like we have forgotten who Prime is. And the more conversation that I have about Prime is leaking into his son and the conversations surrounding his son. So I ask y'all this question. There's the difference between having a conversation about the 5th rounder. I want you to hear, like, I'm going to use Phil. Let me use you for a second. Phil says, he asked his wife this question. What did you just hear me say? There's a difference between having a conversation about a 5th rounder versus if you believe that Shador is a 5th rounder. And I'll tell you why. Hey guys, those who wanted to come on the thing, I just sent you the link. If you ask me a question about how do you think Cleveland should treat a 5th rounder, now I have to put my head on and I say, you know what? I know what they're saying, what they're asking. I'll just answer the question for how a 5th rounder should choose or how a 5th rounder should be treated. Now, there's a different process now. If you interject Shador in that question, you are not going to have the same conversation. Because in my head, Shador is a 1st rounder. He's not a 5th rounder. So where I will answer your question about what a 5th rounder is for, I'm going to approach the second part of that, which when you interject Shador and you mention Shador's name, I'm going to change the dynamic of my answer to let you know that I'm not talking about you and you and I are not having the same conversation about 5th rounders. Shador is not a 5th rounder. It's the circumstances that made him the 5th rounder. So we got to be able to identify what it is we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is you have to make sure that you're on the same page and you're talking about the same thing. I believe that you did a video a while back when you were talking about who's the most powerful coach in college football. I think was that the correct term? Powerful. Or
you're talking about the one with Josh Pate, what Josh Pate said.
Yeah, but
okay,
but
yeah, we were talking about the word powerful.
Right. But you were defining it, and based off of the definition of it, is how you made your argument for or against whatever the case was. And I think what happens is people just don't have time to really have nuanced conversations when it comes to sports or just life in general.
That's where I live. I know, but that's where my joy comes from.
But let me get it off though, because I had to be quiet for a minute. So let me get it off. I think.
Go ahead.
Again, I think when you're trying to have a nuanced conversation, off the top if you just having a football conversation. Just like, okay, DC and I said Bama was going to go 9-3 last year. That was an opinion, not a fact. It ended up being a fact. Based off of what our answers were or the evidence that we gave to say why they would be 9-3, that is going to let you know whether or not you can listen to that person. And I honestly think that's what it boils down to. Once somebody makes an argument and they just say, oh, well, because, we're not having a football conversation, and then we can move it on. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it all boils down to. Whether you're for or against an argument when it relates to Deion, Colorado, Shador, the Louis boys, whatever the case is, if somebody's providing sound logic and reasoning behind it, we can disagree all day. But at the very least, I'm going to have respect for you because we're talking football. But if you're just going to say, gold jacket for Deion, or, well, he didn't win 2 Celebration Bowls, he had won a bowl game in Colorado, that's not real football information that you're bringing to the table. So I don't think that you should have any expectations to have nuanced conversations in certain forms through text. Maybe in the chat, not in the chat. I don't think you have a nuanced conversation in the chat. But when you're doing lives and we can have fully fledged conversations, I think that's when you're going to get the nuance. But outside of that, I think people are just going to be talking, unfortunately.
But can I add into that though? Just
hold on, let me bring Tim on. Okay. Hey Tim, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for calling in. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Thank you for having me, Harry, to DC and Phil. What's up, fellas?
What up,
Dallas
Tim?
in the building. What's up, baby?
Dallas is in the building. Hey, Love Moose says the nuance Harry is pointing out is that if you're calling Shador a 5th rounder, we know where you're coming from. All right. And hopefully nobody will call you a hater because you're just pointing out the facts. That is a fact. He's the 5th rounder. That's how you feel. Cool. But we know. So that's where it falls into nuance, right? Once you say he's a 5th rounder, and you stick on he's a 5th rounder, and then we start going into this, all the evidence of 5th rounder and da. You and I, we can go forever, and I can agree with you. But if you dare cross into nuance, that's where I change the color of the conversation, and I start providing you some more evidence as to why he should be starting. Because then at that point, people get mad. They don't want to hear you no more. It becomes like, well, then the appetites or whatever that word is, they start coming out. Delusional, D-Rider, da. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You had all this time to tell me yada, yada, yada. Now, when I start telling you my stuff, now I'm glazing. DC, you go, and then I got to bring Tim, okay. And Common Sense is in the building.
Right, but the thing is, Harry, you like remember I told you about I can talk about how I feel, but I already know how something's gonna go. So at the end of the day, it don't matter how you feel that he's a first. You can feel he should have been the first pick, and there's some arguments that people can make that support that. But the bottom line is what you got right in front of your face, and that is unfortunately a 5th round pick. I mean, we were sitting there talking about the draft, and but
conversations are not absolutes.
Yeah,
if you're willing to have a conversation with somebody, you can't just be dealing with absolutes.
But hold on. But at the end of the day is that the reality is this is a fact. That ain't no opinion. It's not no assumption. It is a fact. There is a 5th round pick. Now, just during the draft, remember when you were asking me what's going on, I said, I don't know what's going on. I said, but if he don't get picked by the 2nd round, something went horribly wrong. Remember I said that? Because I expected him to get picked either late 1st round, at the beginning of the 2nd, or somewhere going to the Steelers. I expected him to be going to the Browns or the Steelers or something like that. When that didn't happen, the 2nd round, I was like, bro, something went horribly wrong.
All right, so lay your plane. I got guys that want to come in.
So anyway, the point being is that now, but if we get into a conversation where now we arguing about feelings and what you think you get data is that now we come to a point where we're just having a big old subjective argument, because it's an argument at that point because we're ignoring a fact. But I get what you're saying. So I think that sometimes we have to make this distinction and say, yes, I know it's 5th. And like some people would say, yeah, I know what you're talking about. When you, like, for example, we don't define he's him. I understand what that means, though there's really not a full definition. But that's what I think we have to now start saying. If we realize the person doesn't have those nuances, then we need to have a conversation that works for both folks. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Tim, go ahead, Tim. Let me bring on, before you go, Tim, let me bring on Common Sense. Common Sense Buff, welcome to the show, brother. Thank you for calling in. How you doing today?
Hey, what's up, Harry? What's up, panel? What's up, chat?
What's up?
Hey, go ahead, Tim. Go get your thoughts in, because I'm sure Common Sense got some jewels you want to drop too.
I just agree with everything that everybody's stating. I agree with you, DC, wholeheartedly on a lot of things that you're saying, because you can't necessarily have a conversation with everybody like you were stating, Harry, about football, because everybody looks at football differently.
Right.
You got the pom-poms, you got people that just like that certain individual, you got people that just hate that certain individual. So the fact of the matter that he went in the 5th round, that's factual.
Right.
Now, do we think that he's a 5th round talent? No.
Right.
Everybody.
That's what Lily said. Lily said 5th round pick, but 1st round talent.
Exactly. And then everybody, all 32 teams had him somewhere in the 1st and 2nd round. But like DC stated, something along the lines, and we all know, starting to become to know some of the things that the NFL teams did to him. In spite of, he's still a 1st or 2nd, early 2nd round, actually a 1st round draft pick based on the stats and his style of play. But do I think that he would be day one starter? No. I said that on your show on Monday. I don't. And that's no hate towards Shador or anything. But is he capable of it? Yes. But do I visually see it from a football perspective? No, I don't. I do not see him as a day one starter. Later on in the season, yes, to find out what he can do at the next level. But day one, no, I don't. But I'm gonna let somebody else
So
come.
if you and I were having a private conversation,
Mhm.
then like I have no pushback. But if you and I were having a private conversation, like we just texting or just talking,
Mhm.
and I will, it'll be like me trying to say, okay, you don't see it, but then the nuance has to come in because it's a conversation. That's why I
Right.
want people to understand, like there is, you can't like just be like fifth round. Then that's no conversation. If you
Right.
just gonna get me throw facts at me, then conversation has to do with nuance, not all facts. I'm just giving you facts and I'm gonna walk away. Okay, fine. You give me facts. You will not know the facts, so then why are we talking? You feel you see what I'm saying? So when football conversation happens, expect some nuance. It's not you're not gonna kill me with facts. It's like talking to somebody who ain't safe. You're trying to get them safe, and you're just throwing Bible verses at them. You gotta throw in some testimonials. You gotta throw in some, you know what I'm saying? You gotta throw some stuff in there that's gonna make it interesting so I can really accept what you're saying without just trying to kill me with facts. So anyway.
Right. But the facts, real quick, the facts is what's gonna stick. The facts is what's gonna
Well, the fact
stand.
is the foundation of the conversation. That's how we gotta perceive conversations. We start with the facts, and then we try to wrap it up with nuances, and that's how you have conversations. And I think there needs to be grace and room for people to bring in how they're perceiving what you're saying. That's where we're kind of getting off when we're having internet conversations. People are not willing to allow nuances. They just want to kill you with facts, what they know. And what they know, somebody said, look, man, I don't care what you know unless I know that you care. You feel what I'm saying? Like, if
I agree with that.
We're gonna be bumping heads. If you don't care about what I got to say, I can care less about what you know, as long as I know that you don't care. So that's just how it goes. Let me bring in Common Sense Buff. Common Sense Buff, go ahead, brother. What's your thoughts, man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? All right. So, what's the main question on the table right now? Because I think we're pulling on a lot of different threads. So, what's the topic of discussion?
So okay, so the general discussion, which is going over time, is that I want to come to a place where we are these online conversations that we're all having. I feel like Coach Prime and his football knowledge, or Coach Prime and his, whether we're dealing with his sons or just him as a football brain, he's being overshadowed by the circus, by the things that people, the conversations that are outside, right? So we're talking about that, and then we're having the conversations about nuance versus facts. So that's where we are. But the conversation about how we cannot talk because Coach Prime is always being overshadowed with the circus, and the circus has to do with us who are out here defending him.
Okay, that makes sense. But Coach Prime is a controversial figure, and he usually transcends whatever the topic of discussion is because his brand touches so many different things. So if you think about even his what some who would be like Christian purists, right? He causes controversy there because he's like, I'm a man of God. I believe in God. I pray with my team. I quote from the Bible, but then I play boss man D-Lo in the locker room. We could go to a different kind of conversation in a Christian version, and some people would be like, nah, that's a Christian man. He's guiding young men in the right direction. All the young men, their grades are coming up. And then the people were like, but he played boss man D-Lo though.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
But he wears a chain though. But he's been divorced multiple times though. That is Coach Prime. There's no way to have a singular conversation about that man because in him being him, it causes problems for purists. This would be the same, I'm guessing, for UFC fans when UFC was just all martial artists. And somebody come in there and say, Conor McGregor is trash. He talked too much. He's too flashy. Look at how he doesn't love the sport. He doesn't love the game. Conor McGregor is a version of that in the UFC because his brand causes more issues than you can't just have a fighting conversation about Conor McGregor. Same thing for Pretty Boy Floyd. You just can't be like, he's just the greatest, he's undefeated, because then boxing purists are going to be like, he's too flashy, he's too... There are certain characters that transcend their sports where you can't talk about their accomplishments in the ring without their brand clouding the conversation. I think that is the issue for Prime. Some of that bled over to Shador, and I think some people might say, yes, that was an issue. No, it wasn't. But I just feel like you can't just have a singular conversation about this guy without everything else about his brand clouding the conversation.
So then
Hey
here's
Harry, real quick, can I say something real quick?
I really wanted to get this out, but go ahead.
I promise. I'm gonna be quick. Leo, let me tell you something, man. I pray that everything you touch turn to gold, man. You are a good dude, man. Like I'm being so serious, man. Like I enjoy hearing you speak. I pray nothing but success over your life, dude, man. You got a great future. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You are a great dude. Words can't express what I want to say, man. But just you a good dude, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Let me get this out. Come on, stop glazing. Let me get this out. Let me get this out. Are you done, Phil?
No, but I want to be very clear. I'm being very serious when I say.
No,
that.
I know you're being sincere. If it's coming from Phil, he's being sincere because he appreciates what you just said and interjecting that into the conversation.
But yeah,
Phil,
go ahead,
I already know you. I know how
it.
you are. I know the type of man you are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
JL Boxing, what's up? David Pascal, what's up? What up, everybody in the chat? Okay, so then what you just said, this brings up that question. The question that I asked in the beginning of the conversation, which has pretty much taken up all the time, is that the thing that you talked about, the controversy, is why it's hard for people. I feel like people who talk football, people who are football purists, it's hard for them to distinguish between that, the circus that comes with that. It's hard for them to distinguish that from the actual football stuff. That's what we were talking about in more details, because when it comes to Prime and his children, I feel like people cannot even hear football anymore. I feel like because the everything else is just overshadowing. When you start talking about Shador and what he's capable of, like, okay, so you got Tim. Tim's like, he's not a day one starter. And then I would ask Tim, and I'll push back. I'll be like, wait a minute. So do you believe that Cam is a day one starter? Give me the 5 steps on why you believe Cam is a day one starter and Shador is not. Because I got so much information to share, and the conversation goes nowhere because people feel like their opinion because their criticism or opinion about Prime should supersede your glazeration. You feel me? Because anything we say that is positive is glazing. And people feel entitled, like they want to monopolize the conversation. Your opposition to whatever their criticism is, it always comes, it should be louder. It should be more right. They're more right because they know football and you know nothing. So you want to chime in on that, and then I'll take it to move it on. That's common sense buff. The last person that spoke.
Yeah, Phil got me so shook, man. When he started giving me a compliment, I was ready for I was like, oh, he about to roast me, dog. He about to kill me.
I mean that from the bottom of my heart, man. You're a good dude, man. Like real talk. Now listen. I'm gonna say this real quick. It's off topic, but I'm in the season of giving flowers while people can smell them. Man, a lot of times we want to praise the dead, and we didn't say nothing about them when they was here. So
that's
if
true.
It's on my heart to give flowers, I'm gonna give them to you. So that's just where I am right
now. Now I'm the one. Now I'm the one that's going. Now I'm the one. This DC. I'm the one that's gonna come from that KFCSB. I'm the one gonna come for the K. No, I'm messing with you. Straight talk before we move on. Go on in. Brother, that was great.
I want common sense to chime in on the last part I just said about how their football acumen is being overshadowed by the circus.
Yeah, but I think they benefit from the circus. I mean, and I'm only calling it a circus because that's how the media describes it, and they benefit from it though, and like the word that's common to them is that they're built for it. right? They you know, but the thing about if we were to just set that aside for a second, which is I think where ultimately where we want the conversation to go, and it seems unavoidable because it always pulls us back in, right? So I'm gonna just leave it at that. It continues to perpetuate because they desire it to perpetuate. It is great for the brand. I've seen.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful for the brand, for the business, right? Not maybe the football side of things. I think it's wonderful for the business. It's why Shador can do a praise break, fall into the 5th round because he already made $20 million this year. It don't make him never mind the amount of money he lost. Ultimately, it's just about, oh, I'm in the NFL now. Now I can go out and show what I can do.
It's hard for the Glaze Nation, though. The Glaze Nation try to feel like we're here trying to defend, not necessarily defend, but we're trying to make an argument for the football part, right? So the circus, we're trying to make an argument for the football part. It makes it hard because of the sensing out there about how people feel about him. So it's really hard. People get upset with us. I'm trying to tell you, the reason why he slid is because of us.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, but I mean, again, and I was listening to Gilly and Wallow on Well Off, and they were talking about the fact that if you're a business person, you want to create this kind of enemy hero
in a bottle, right?
Yeah, you want this to be the narrative if you want to stay at the top of the ESPN headline. If you want to stay,
Phil, I guarantee you, Phil's going to push back and say, "Is this the best thing for the football side of it?" Because I don't know if are we more focused on the business or are we more focused on the football? Because yes, while it's good for business, it's hurting the football because now we're having to defend 5th round, and we know that this is a 1st round person. Let me bring on JR Boxing because he's been in the great room. Go ahead.
I wanted to say something once you bring on JR.
Yeah, let me bring him on, and then you'll go, and then he'll go. JR Boxing, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing today?
I'm good, fellas. What's going on here, B? What's going on to the panel?
All is well.
Good,
go ahead, Tim, and then I'll bring JR Boxing in.
Okay. What I was gonna say was, the classification of what circus means to them is not displayed. We don't know. We speculate on try to figure out what it is that they classify as a circus. But I'm starting to think more and more on these different topics that's been thrown out that they fear Coach Prime. And the reason that I say that is because most NFL or NBA, most athletes, not all, but most of them are broke after 5 years of playing their sport, especially African Americans. And he's giving them the blueprint. No different than, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. No different than when blacks wasn't able to read, and it was knowledge. So I feel like they fear that he's giving away all this knowledge of how the NFL works.
Define who is they. Let me just make sure I understand who you, the NFL or who is they?
Well, yeah, the NFL.
Oh,
I mean, because they're mostly Caucasian, older white men, and their logic of thinking.
Wait, you saying you think they fear Deion for giving away so much knowledge?
Yes, I think so.
I've never heard that before.
I think they try to use the circus aspect of it just to throw out something, but I think they fear that he's giving them the knowledge because once you go to Colorado, these kids are maintaining 3.0 GPAs. They're graduating from college. Everybody not gonna go to the NFL, but you can go pro in something else. So
I got a little bit of pushback, but let me bring JR Boxing in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a little bit of pushback. JR Boxing, go ahead, my guy.
Yeah, I'll just kind of pick up where what was just said. I think it's just from a society norm standpoint, so you got the social norms of everything. Like people are so accustomed to like looking at something a certain way, is that when it's different, then it's like, oh well, that's it's an ish show, or it's, you know, all of the other things that you all were just speaking about that other people say, because it's not the normal, you know, situation of how business should be handled, quote unquote. But just because it's different doesn't make it wrong. Just because it's different, it shouldn't offend anybody. And I'm thinking, not to bring like another coach into the situation, but they're gonna start characterizing Fran Brown in the same way, of the way he the way he comes across, and he's just being himself. But it's not of what the social norm of what you think a head coach at a university is going to be like. And so eventually it's going to spew over to Fran Brown. It's going to spew over to other coaches that are at these PWIs that they're like, oh, that's not the social norm. Because you got coaches that talk like this in HBCU realm. They don't say anything about those coaches because it's not out in front of us.
Well, no, because we're in the mainstream. This is mainstream. So when you have an anomaly, that's what they pick on. You hear this in our community, in our culture, but when it enters the mainstream, then it's jolting to them.
Exactly. Yep. But that's all I got to say about that. Yep.
Let me I'm gonna come to you, DC, in a second for what you just said, but let me answer was it Love Moves that says something about to call a fan base a circus is something, you know what I'm saying? Okay, it was. Let me put this up. Calling a group of fans a circus is attempting to down talk and belittle them for what they like. That's crazy talk. Well, let me explain a little bit about why I feel like the media is talking, the NFL are calling this a circus. They're rightfully calling it a circus, and it's a circus, okay? The reason why it's a circus is because of what JR Boxing just says. It breaks the social norm. It breaks the society of the NFL and how they want to move their brand. All right. That's why they're calling it a circus. Just so you understand, when you have the NFL, their fan base, they control the narrative. All of the narrative, they want to control that. So if you're bringing somebody in that has their own fan base and they're very vocal and they're boisterous and they say a lot, they're in all of the chat rooms, they can move the needle. They're going to call that a circus, because most NFL teams, they want to stay quiet. They want to tell you who's going to start at their quarterback position. They're going to put that information out. They're going to tell the coach is going to come out and say, yes, we have a quarterback competition, or we're going to be, everybody's going to have to do, like the general manager said with the Cleveland Browns, that there is a quarterback competition, because he said that Joe Flacco has to earn a spot on the team. I don't know if he meant to put that out there, but he created that. So most NFL teams want to control their society. They want to control their fan base on how they disseminate information. Anything outside of that is going to be called a circus. That's why I'm saying we're the circus. I'm just accepting it and saying I'm moving along and letting you know, yes, we are the circus. I make videos and I say how I feel about Shador. I'm making money off of this stuff. So that's not a secret for me. So if I'm a ringleader, fine. Call us a circus. But I want people to not to be offended to think that being a circus is a bad thing. This circus has praying aunties. This circus has praying grandmothers, praying women, men, people who are here saying, God bless Shador. It's a circus, but it's a good circus. Just understand why they're calling it a circus. All right, who was up? I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I addressed that. Who was speaking? Was anybody speaking? I'm sorry. Are y'all still here? Oh, okay.
I'll piggyback off of what you just said.
Go ahead, please.
When you look at the NFL fan base, the fan base of an NFL, like being a NFL fan myself and following a team, you usually don't get wrapped up in specific players. You're more so just tied to the team.
Okay.
Because when you look at the NFL, you're not seeing faces on the field. You're more so seeing names on the back of the jersey and the name on the front of the jersey. So typical NFL fans, they love their teams more than players.
Right.
But it's different. And so when the media say, oh, this is a circus and things like that, because when you follow Colorado, you might say, well, yeah, I follow Colorado, but what's your reasoning for following Colorado? Well, I'm following because of Coach Prime. Coach Prime brought me here. Or I follow because Shador or Travis or Shiloh. Like you connect with those players because they have allowed us to connect with that team on that level by showing us the day-to-day and the ins and outs. You don't get that on an NFL level. So you get the surface level of the NFL. You see them play on Sunday, and you will see a few players that are targeted by the franchise to do the post-game interviews, to be at the podium after the game. And then so you'll attempt to connect with them. Those players are usually associated with high jersey sales and all the things like that, franchise-like players. But there's still not a connection fully with that player. Because that player get traded, you're like, okay, that player get traded. I'm not following that player. I'm still gonna follow my team. I wish that player well.
Right.
But if CJ Stroud got traded to the New York Giants tomorrow, I'm not gonna be like, well, I guess I'm a New York Giants fan. I'm still gonna be a Houston Texans fan. And so with the media seeing this in a different light, it's like, oh, this is kind of unusual on an NFL level.
Right.
People are going to bat for the player. They haven't taken snaps in the NFL. And they're like, man, people going to bat for these players because people have divested and invested into their content, into going to games, into feeling as though they're a part of the thing because they followed with Coach Prime from Jackson State, or even further if you want to go back to Trinity and things like that. But
so
let
me make this point and to point this out. Love Moves and who said this? And my tie. You guys are right. Listen, the circus thing is not necessarily a positive thing, right? They are taking elements of what's going on, the thing that comes with Shador, the fan base that comes with Shador. They're taking elements of it and they're just calling it a circus because of how it moves. So understand that Black culture is part of that circus. And I think it was TH said the circus has clowns, LV bags, DJs, and elephants. I don't know if that was a joke, but there are elements of that because the clowns are going to be described as the people that don't know about football, but they want Shador. They want Shador to start on day number 1. Those are the people that they're describing as clowns. They want the veteran who had the number 2 to give up that number because Shador's better. That's just how they feel. They think that's a clown. So yes, there are elements within this whole movement because the people that support Shador, they're unapologetically coming for your neck no matter what. So you say something crazy, they're coming for you. That's why they're calling it a circus. Johnny Manziel had a similar movement. The reason why they don't call it a circus for every other group of people is because ain't nobody got it like this. So there's a lot going on with this fan base, and there's a lot of different parts of it. Not everybody knows about football. Some know about football. There are other channels that everything is breaking news. There are channels that talk about, oh my God, Shador's the best, and they say that Dylan Gabriel sucks. We know that's not true, but yes, that's part of the circus, and they're gonna call that a circus. They hear us out here. Trust me. I may not get some of these guys coming on the show, but I guarantee you they see me out here making noise. So that's why they're calling us a circus. If that makes any sense, hopefully that makes sense. Who was that? Go ahead.
This is Phil. I'm ready to get to the rumor portion of the conversation, but I just want to say this real quick. When Johnny Manziel came out, it was referred to as a circus. When Tim Tebow was at the Broncos, it was considered a circus. So I don't want to.
Touchdown, Jesus.
Exactly. While yes, there are racial components to it, I don't want to automatically say because we use these terms therefore it is all about race, because I think
Right. Oh no.
that is a very skewed way of looking at it. So I just wanted to put that out there.
And
Yes,
let me say this last thing. And
I agree.
they call Alabama, they'll call us during the heyday Bammers and kissing cousins. So it happens. Trust me.
Well, you remember y'all talked about facts? So if it's factual,
I mean, yeah, if it's fact, we leave it at fact.
Listen, man, that did it trial got a lot of stuff, got a lot of people talking right now. So we're not even gonna touch on what's real and what ain't. So let's keep that in mind, people.
Check this out. Even in Alabama, check this out. Even in Alabama State, the whole thing for the last half of Prime State was who is swag. Stuff happens, folks. That was all over the news. Stuff happens, and it is. I get it.
So the just finally, we're gonna move on to the next topic. But just finally, just know that the media and the teams, when there's a ruckus, when there's a lot of people that are not necessarily their core fan base, when they come rushing in because of a fad, they call that a circus. And that fad, maybe they need to bring a different name to it, but that fad, it dies down, because I'll tell you this is facts now. I'm trying to tell you, the first year of Coach Prime, the numbers were astronomical. TV ratings were high. The second and third year, we didn't even crack. The third year, we didn't even crack the top 10 in TV ratings. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the fad that comes in with the person, right? And they have high demands for everything. That's why they're calling it what they're calling it. So don't take it personal. I'm accepting it. I'm your man. Okay? You know, Harry B, I got you. I'm holding you down. I came out here for the first hour. I argue for you. I try to get people off your backs. I know y'all got some machetes in the Bible and y'all some praying aunties and uncles. I got your back, okay? I'm going to argue for you, and I'm going to make my case for y'all. But, you know, it is what it is. We got to accept certain things that happen. So, but let's go ahead and let's dig into this second part of this. And then hold on, where's my stuff? Okay, here we go. Let's go with this. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen. That's not what I want to show. Okay, hold up. Where is it at? I want to dig into this because this is where I feel like the conversation is going to go.
Yeah, I already know what's going on, and this is going to be an interesting conversation. So I'm looking forward to it.
This is going to be interesting.
Blurry vision today, but we will start with this rumor that is run vaguely rampant across message boards about Colorado jumping from the Big 12 to the SEC alongside Kansas and Nebraska to rebuild some old rivalries from like the Big 8. Also, transfer portal magic, not just Texas Tech or even West Virginia, but Colorado is in there like swimwear. And just because Deion's taken half of what he did last year, I think it's a sign of progress, more so than a sign of an issue for the program. We'll finish with over-under win totals from BYU to Utah to the Buffs to Baylor.
Do not drink.
All right, so let me just
cold
play this
water
commercial.
if
Let it
you
go.
want to
Get over.
normalize
This is
the size
AI.
of your prostate. Maybe you don't know this.
Who does Vegas really favor this?
So they're going to jump into this conversation about Coach Prime, the rumors that are on message boards, and I want to say shout out to this is Locked On Big 12, and they're having a cross show with Locked On Buffs with Kevin Borber on the right hand side of your screen, and Drake Toll is on the left hand side of your screen. I appreciate the conversation. So rumor boards are having it that Coach Prime wants to take Colorado to the SEC, right? And this is the conversation. This is where we want to take it. Let me ask you the first question. Is Colorado ready for the SEC? Who wants to take it first?
I'll go first.
Well, let
ahead,
the
Tim.
SEC guys go first.
I'll go first.
All right, go ahead, Tim.
All right, now are we talking this year or are we talking next season?
Well, it's obviously not this year, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, is Coach Prime ready for the SEC? I would say
Oh,
yes.
let's not take Coach Prime first. Let's take Colorado first. Not
Okay.
Coach Prime.
Is Colorado ready for the SEC? No.
You want to give me nuance or you want to give me facts? So give me something. Back it up. I'm glad we already set up this whole conversation. So now I'm smelling everything out.
No, because it's like the reason I say no is because I don't think they have the talent to last the season for the SEC. So I feel like they don't have enough talent to last an entire season of the SEC. Now, in a couple of years, yes, it's a possibility because Prime can recruit and young men want to play in the SEC. It's just if they want to play up there in Colorado.
All right. So anybody got any? I want to hear a pushback first because I got a pushback, but I want to hear a pushback first before I go to the next person. Is there any pushback, or should I give my pushback?
I don't have any pushback.
Okay, so
because I think we all saying no.
Okay, so here is my pushback. When you say they lack talent, right? So here's the thing. Colorado's not going to the SEC this year in 2025. That's not how the wheel turns, because there's movement that has to happen. There are meetings that have to happen, right? Boards have to talk. So it's not happening this year. It's obvious, right? We have to wait to see how Colorado plays to see that. Now, here is the thing. When the SEC, we all agree that the SEC is the direct portal to the NFL. Can I get a consensus yes, or is there any pushback on that?
Based off of the numbers, that is a factual statement.
Okay.
Yeah, for certain teams, yes. I'll say that.
That's true. Okay.
No, as the conference as a whole. No, not certain teams.
Not certain teams. I'm talking about the SEC as a whole, not certain teams.
Then I got pushback for that.
Okay, good. Then hold that pushback. Yeah. But this is where I stand, and I say the SEC does have a direct link, and it's the direct push to the NFL. If you want to, we got to obviously add nuance to this because the Big Ten has won, in recent years, but that's not here or there. When a parent and guardian is sitting down with their potential child, making a decision to go to play somewhere, SEC is probably where they want to start thinking about, because they know that if your goal and you're good enough to go to the NFL, nothing is guaranteed, but at least you know that you will get more looks from the SEC. 70-some players from the SEC, that's nasty work, right? For the lack of a better term, that's nasty work. All right. So if a parent or guardian is sitting down and making decisions, they're going to be thinking SEC. So here's the thing. Here's the pushback. Coach Prime goes to the SEC. They become sexier for talent. So getting and recruiting talent, if Coach Prime is on the road and say, you come to the SEC, you already know what it is. Money is going to be also available now to Coach Prime. So Coach Prime is not going to have a hard time getting talent, saying, number one, we're SEC. Number two, we got more money to offer as far as NIL is concerned. So that's my pushback to say they don't have the talent, because I don't think you're going to the SEC with the same talent that you have in the Big 12, because you have to recruit. You're just saying, oh my gosh, or it's us. No, you now use the back end of the SEC, the money that's going to come with the SEC, and you go recruit talent, and that's where Coach Prime is going to be at. So we're not talking about the same thing.
But hold on, Harry, real quick, because now you're projecting what he can do in the SEC. If the question is right now, today, if you switched out Colorado,
that was not the question. That was not the question. Don't change the question to make your point.
Okay, but still though, you say if they join the SEC, when? Give me a date for them to start to join the
put
SEC.
a time frame on it.
Because I
say
want
next 5 years.
Yeah,
say next 5 years.
Yeah,
I would say not in the next 5 years. I would say sooner than 5 years. I say 2 years.
I still don't think they would be ready, and I think that unfortunately or fortunately, because you think so highly of Deion, you think that just because now he's in the SEC, he's going to get better players. When I have an issue with Colorado, I think that Colorado isn't as sexy of a school for some recruits. So just because he is in the SEC doesn't automatically mean he's going to be able to recruit at a high level. Look at Mississippi State, look at Vanderbilt, even Missouri. They have a good year here at ever recruiting, but just because you're in the SEC doesn't mean that you're automatically going to get top tier talent.
No,
Exactly.
but I think my argument has to do with the fact that you include that with Prime, and that makes it even more sexier. Because now, if you're Prime, you're Prime. We cannot make an argument about any of this without mentioning the fact that Prime is Prime, right? You're now talking about the fact that you get exposure with Prime because he is polarizing, like a Common Sense Buff came in and says. The fact that you now have the SEC also, that's a whole nother thing. So that means you're going to be mostly on prime time playing all of the, those games, right? So you don't have to fight as hard because now you're in the SEC. So when you connect Prime with SEC and you're able to sell that as a package, that makes it even more sexier. That's my pushback. That's what I'm offering.
Over time, sure. If you put like a 5-year goal on it, sure. In 5 years, yes. And the reason why I say 5 years, because one, Colorado's lacking infrastructure. They would immediately go to the SEC and be behind in infrastructure. You're talking about facilities like Alabama, Florida, all of these top LSU, they have top tier facilities.
That's
Colorado
wrong.
is lacking
That
behind
is not a fact.
in that.
That is not a fact, by the way.
No, I mean, if you compare it to those facilities, they're lacking. It's a nice facility, the Champions facility that they have. It's nice, but if you compare it to Alabama, LSU, the top level schools, they're behind in that. So you're going to be behind.
That's not a fact. That is not a fact.
Go look at Texas A&M. Just go look at Texas A&M. They look at their facilities. You won't say that. I promise.
It's a fact, Harry. And then I'll say this. Infrastructure of the stadium as well. Colorado Stadium only holds 60,000. SEC schools, they're 80,000 plus. Mississippi State, bottom team in the SEC last year or over the past few years. Their stadium holds 75 to 80,000. Vanderbilt is upgrading their stadium to hold a capacity of 75 to 80,000. Colorado is at 55 to 60,000.
The Colorado was at 55. If the Colorado would have won the SEC today, the only stadium that Colorado would have that's bigger than any team in the SEC would be Vanderbilt. Outside that,
Vanderbilt
Colorado
currently
would have.
And they're going under construction. Currently, right now, Oklahoma, a blue blood program, has one of the smaller stadiums in the SEC. And that's a blue blood program.
Here go the caveat with Vanderbilt. They would move that stadium over to the Titans Stadium. So you still wind up having a big stadium.
Yep.
Because it's right down the street.
And I'm not saying that CU doesn't have good facilities, but comparable to what you would have to face day in and day out, there's a stark difference. CU facility was built, I want to say 10 to 15 years ago. Alabama, LSU, Florida, they're constantly adding, upgrading to that facility because guess what that attracts? That attracts recruits.
But let me just put it's not a pushback, and I'm not pushing it back against Harry, because Colorado does have some really nice facilities. It's got great scenery, and I definitely think they can sell a lot of stuff in there as far as brand awareness to kids, stuff like that. Here is one of the things I would suggest taking a look at. And that is that our Colorado fans going to be comfortable with getting the snot beat out of you for about 2 or 3 years. Because that's what's going. It might not happen with the Mississippi States and the Kentuckys, but you're going to have to take those games where where you are literally just being destroyed.
I got pushback. The only reason why I say I have pushback is because when Missouri and Texas A&M came to the SEC, we thought the same thing was going to happen. But Missouri went to the SEC championship 2 years in a row. They run the Eastern Division. No. Is that a fact or not?
I was trying to ignore that. I was trying to have a nice conversation. It is a fact.
Why are you picking on CU fans? Like, what do you mean? I'm trying to ignore that.
I'm trying to ignore that because at the end of the day is, I mean, yes, Phil, it's true what you're saying, but
Okay, then.
at the end of the day
2 + 2 = 4.
Right. So basically, what you're saying is you have the capacity to be coming in here and going 1-11 again.
No, I'm saying Missouri was a team that people thought the SEC was going to run all over, but they won the Eastern Division 2 years in a row.
Exactly.
Now they lost to Bama, they lost to Georgia the first year, then they lost to Bama the second year, but they still were, for lack of a better word, they were dominant in the SEC. So it's not unfathomable that a team that comes out of conference to the SEC can't still have success. However, I do not believe that Colorado is built for success in the SEC right now. So I don't think they would mirror Missouri, but I'm just pointing out the fact that if you want to look at somebody coming into the SEC, there are teams that have had success. So I just want to be fair.
Here's my question. Okay, when people think SEC, they think like, okay, the top of the creme de la creme. Is it possible that when we're talking about SEC, we can now bring in Coach Prime and say, if Coach Prime is ready for the SEC, is it possible for people to think about Colorado being in the SEC without thinking about Deion Sanders' circus and just think football? Here's the reason why I asked that question. Coach Prime, first of all, is one of the best recruiters in college football. Without a big budget, without infrastructure, like you're saying, without all of these biggest things, like they won the Orange Bowl 1989, 1990. So without all of that, Coach Prime was able to get Travis Hunter a Heisman Trophy. I'm killing it right now with facts. Okay, he was able to get Travis Hunter, his own son, who was a 4-star coming out of high school. His own son, we have to count that. I know it's his son. He was able to recruit those people, bring them into a program in the HBCU, and he's been getting Jordan Seatons. He's been getting 4 and 5 stars without everything that you guys saying that he doesn't have. So now, Coach Prime with SEC, you think he's going to lay down and cry and say, oh, woe is me, oh my gosh, we're going to get beat? Or you think Coach Prime is going to be out there recruiting his butt off and saying, we about to take this nonsense?
Oh,
like, can we say that Coach Prime is a competitor? He's a competitive person, and when we talk about SEC, he will be ready.
Okay, so I do want, at some point, I do want to have the conversation on whether or not the SEC would even want Colorado. But to answer your question, obviously, Deion is going to step up to the challenge, right? But you still have to understand that just because it's Deion doesn't mean guys are automatically going to go. Will he be able to recruit at a higher level because it is the SEC? Sure, but we have to agree that at the very least, Colorado is still at the very least 1 step or 2 steps behind the other teams in the SEC because they already have that foundation. I think is that a fair enough statement to make, that he will be behind the 8 ball just a tad bit, even if they do move to the SEC?
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't doubt that.
But okay, cool. That's all I want.
But now,
we're good.
But now, when you're in the SEC, the whole idea of being in the SEC is that now we have more of a leverage. We have the recruiting should spike up, the money should spike, the recruiting should spike. Because now you're selling a bigger program, you're selling a bigger conference, right? So kids, players will want to play for the SEC program. I understand.
Is that an opinion or a fact?
Huh?
Is that an opinion or a fact?
I mean, if we look at the results, most of the players, most of the 4 and 5 stars, they want to play for SEC programs. That's a fact.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah, for certain programs, yes.
Yeah, let me ask you. Right.
Not just for certain, but I think as a whole, if you look at how the NFL has put players into the how teams have put players into the NFL, the SEC puts a lot of players into the NFL. But yes, I know that there are the bigger programs, even in every conference, Georgia, Alabama, LSU. Those programs are going to always, haul more people. But I think as a whole, if we're just looking at the SEC, if a player cannot get if Georgia's roster is too full, they'll look for another SEC before they say Big 12.
But let me ask you this, Harry. Harry, and to the panel, I want to know, what about if we change it from the SEC to the Big 10 and bring back Nebraska as a natural rivalry? Would that make more sense?
I don't want to leave this.
That would make more sense, but that's not the
Yeah,
conversation
that would.
That's
he's
not the
having.
conversation we're having. I'm not
nigga
trying to have that
JR would be
conversation.
like, yeah, I can rock. I can hear JR. Like I can rock with that one. But yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, Harry, at the beginning is because also now you got that rule because Colorado does get quite a few. Tries to get some of the SEC players out the portal. You're not going to be able to do that now. So now you're going to sit there and say, I have got to. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if he does that, it ain't no way it's going to. Well, put it like this. The only way that the powers that be in Colorado go for that is that they have to know they got to push all their chips to the table. And they're going to have to give him as much NIL. Now, they'll get it back because think about this. From TV revenue, from the major networks, Alabama gets just as, and Georgia gets just as much as Mississippi State and Vandy. So, because they split it evenly. So, they would immediately wind up getting a huge big 20, 30 million. This is like, do they get 30 or 40 million a year each school? Something like that.
20 million.
Right. Okay. Yeah. 20 million. So the point is right there, you just interjected a crap load of money into Colorado. And that means that they got to push all their chips in. I think that works that way, but you still are going to have for the first 2-3 years some growing pains.
Yeah.
But hey, real quick,
I don't think it worked.
DC was about to make a good point, and then he kind of jumped off of it. But the SEC does have a rule where you can't sign. A player can't transfer from one SEC school to another SEC school in the fall portal. So if the idea is that Deion is still going to do, what was it, the 40-40-20 with the transfers and high school recruit, if he's still going to do that and he wants to try to get SEC talent, the likelihood is that he's going to have to recruit that talent out of high school instead of being able to target those guys in the transfer portal just for the rule that that the SEC has. And then the second thing, and I yield my time, with the new the NCAA versus the House ruling that's about to come out, there is going to be some type of revenue sharing. So it is going to, in some ways, level the playing field because each school is going to have X amount of dollars that they can use specifically for their collectives. And as well, they're going to have a board that reviews NIL, and they're going to make sure that the NIL is actually based off of what a player can actually bring in and not just saying, hey, this school is trying to pay a guy an exorbitant amount of money when his name, image, and likeness doesn't call for that type of money. So there are a lot of different factors that go into how successful Colorado can be when they go to the SEC that are outside of just having the facilities, having the infrastructure, and all those things.
I got some pushback. I'm already on record saying no. I don't think it'll work. You'll need 5 years, probably 5 years plus. But even with the infusion of money, then it comes down to how does the school want to distribute that money to each athletic program? Because if you look at Colorado is probably the big ticket for the program or for Colorado altogether for the university. So they're probably going to get the most money when it comes to that 20 million. But when you look at other programs in the SEC, I don't think it levels out even at 20 million because you might say Mississippi State baseball team may be the cash cow. So let's funnel a lot of money into that because they're in, Omaha, Nebraska every year for the College World Series, things like that. And then it comes back down to a talent level. If I'm a 5-star, 4-star guy, you don't really see Vanderbilt, Mississippi State getting a lot of those guys because talented people want to play with other talented people because that makes your trajectory to the NFL easier. We're winning. I'm getting better at practice. But if I'm a 5-star guy, a 5-star running back, and I go to Vanderbilt and we got a terrible O-line, am I really going to get better? Especially if we got to play Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, all these upper echelon teams, we're going to get creamed. Now, this year, Vanderbilt played well, but let's see if they continue to play well. TCU played really well. They went all the way to the national championship and then fell off to the abyss 3 years in a row. So it's, to me, I'm like, the $20 million, that's a great infusion of money. How does that university spread that money around? Bigger universities, they're going to spread that money to their football program. because they know that's the bread and butter. But some other mid-tier, lower level, they may be like, nah, our baseball team, actually our basketball team is better at this. Like Kentucky. Kentucky basketball is bigger than Kentucky football. Why would they give more money to the football program when they know the basketball program needs that money more than the football program? So
All right,
that's
so
how I
let's
look at
take
it.
a listen to what these guys have to say, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Colorado, the Mississippi State, there are a few SEC schools that I think Colorado takes precedent over, and you'd add another time zone. I mean, it's not the craziest thing, just not sure if Colorado's there.
Yeah, I don't think Colorado's there. I do think if there was like a theory where it was like, okay, pick your favorite conspiracy theory, this would be mine, right? For Colorado, it's like Deion Sanders is so big brand-wise that he could just carry a program to 2 different conferences in 3 years, right? I think he played a big role in Colorado being so desirable to the Big 12. Honestly, I think Colorado in general was desirable in terms of markets, but I don't think having Deion Sanders hurt. And I think it's a fun thought that like, hey, Deion Sanders is so popular, he generates hundreds of millions of dollars for Boulder. What could he do for the SEC, who's constantly on national television, who's constantly in primetime slots? I'm sure the SEC wouldn't oppose, but at the same time, the SEC has turned down Florida State. It's turned down Clemson. They are, ironically, even though they're the ones that kind of helped get this ball rolling of the collapsing of conferences, they're the one conference that has geographical sense, I would say, still, right? Their latest additions still were close in proximity. I don't think adding a time zone to them really matters, right? We'll just put it that way. And I think there's other teams that want to get into the SEC that possibly bring more from an overall perspective than Colorado does, whether it's they're better at more sports, they're better academically, whatever it is. And those guys aren't getting it. I think the SEC is currently an exclusive club, and I don't really know what these 3 schools would bring to the table outside of good vibes and some fun times.
Look at so is it only good vibes and fun times? Are we talking only good vibes and fun times, or anybody wants to add a conspiracy theory?
I mean, weed is legal. Weed is legal in Colorado, so I mean, it will be good vibes for sure. I can promise you that. Allegedly.
Yeah. Wait, is it alleged that weed is legal? I thought it was.
No, I just didn't want to speak from experience, but yeah, you know.
I see what you did there.
I'm grown. I'm a taxpaying adult. You know.
So okay. So Kevin Borber, who Locked On Buffs, his idea is like, okay, so the SEC, they're not going to go for it because of desirable, right? Because obviously the conference has to want you for a reason. So we were able to sell Coach Prime to the Big 12 because of Coach Prime and what he brings, right? So we're just talking finances. Is that where we're coming from? Is it just finances, or is it mostly talent and skill and being able to recruit from the region?
It's big picture, because look at what Colorado was before Deion got there, right? When the SEC tries to expand, they're looking at brands. That it is the exact reason why they got Texas and the exact reason why they got Oklahoma. They got a brand. They got 2 big brands, as well as they were able to keep a rivalry. I know in this piece, the young man said that they didn't get Clemson and Florida State. However, I feel like if Clemson and Florida State are not 1 and 2, they're 3 and 4 with the schools that the SEC may try to bring, because Clemson plays South Carolina every year. You have that rivalry that stays intact. Florida State plays Florida. You'll keep that rivalry intact. If they don't try to go for those 2 schools, I think a Duke or North Carolina will come into play, because now the SEC can bolster their college basketball prowess when it comes to that. But again, it's all about branding, and I don't think Colorado as a whole without Deion is what's going to get them over the hump. And the last thing is, when you look at when Texas and Oklahoma initially agreed to come to the SEC, the coaches that are there now were not at Texas. They wanted the brand because the brand is going to stay and it has lasting power. I don't think Colorado as a whole has that lasting power that the SEC is looking for.
So that's
Well
said.
said.
That's what I want to touch on, is that the elephant in the room is Colorado does not have a huge brand. The brand is Prime. There's a whole bunch of dead JSU channels, because once Prime left, all the fans left. And I also think that you have duplicate eyeballs, and call it marketing, where many people that may watch Colorado or watch Prime, that they are also watching the SEC. So you're not getting that. And that's the thing about it, is that if they are going to change, they're going to have to somehow, if Colorado, the university, because Prime will go away one day, just like Saban went away from Bama. They got to do something where their brand is at least on the same level as, I mean, you're not going to be on the same level as Prime, but it's got to be bigger, because other than that, what is Colorado without Prime? And if I'm an SEC, if they want to do that, why pull the school? Just go steal Prime.
So a common sense. You want to add any wisdom to this conversation. So the idea is that without Prime, Colorado is not a big name, or Colorado goes nowhere without Prime. So then with Prime, so the idea is to ask Prime, how long are you going to be sticking around? Is that how we work this out? Hey, Prime, how long are you going to be at Colorado to see if this works out for us?
Unless he's there for 20 years, it's pointless. Because I think they're looking
so it has
for
to be a 20-year haul.
They're here for a long time, not a good time. I think that's what it boils down to. With the SEC trying to expand, that's why again they got those brands. Texas A&M, Missouri maybe not so much, but Texas A&M, they used to have that rivalry game between Texas and Texas A&M. We're starting to see that come back now that Texas is in the SEC. Obviously, you got Texas, Oklahoma. That's obviously the State Fair Classic in Dallas. So I think big picture longevity, you want a brand, and Colorado just doesn't have that name recognition. Again, if they're not going to go for Florida State and Clemson in the ACC, I think it would be North Carolina or maybe a Duke out of the ACC, just to bolster their athletics as a whole when it comes to basketball.
Right. And I would consider they go after. They probably will wind up in the future considering Notre Dame. To be honest with you,
I mean,
Notre
I
Dame
think
needs to
it's
be in
about
the Big
time
Ten.
that Notre
If
Dame.
they're not in the Big Ten, it don't make any sense to me.
that brand though, Phil, that's the thing about it. If the SEC wants to branch outside of the Southeast, Notre Dame is bullseye.
But if they're gonna do that, then we might as well just go to the Super League with.
They are going to the Super League.
Yeah, they're eventually gonna do that, where they have 40, 50 schools do their thing and leave it be. But I'm call me legacy, call me old school, call me old man, get off my lawn. I like the regionality of college football. I hate that you got USC flying to New Jersey to play Rutgers for a football game, and it's a conference game. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I would hate to see Notre Dame be in the SEC.
But can I keep it a buck? If anything, I could easily see this happening. A conversation with Florida State and say, hey, y'all are good, but y'all not what you used to be. But if you go up to Boulder and find a certain coach, throw a load of money at him, y'all will be in automatically.
So you're saying that one of those SEC schools take Prime? Do you think? I don't know that Prime.
No, I'm saying that Florida State, the ACC, that they go and then pull them in.
Right.
That would be a win. And Prime at Florida State would be. I'll stand right here. The folks that say I'm a hater. You put Prime at Florida State, that's gonna get ugly for a lot of folks because they're gonna kill people.
Can Prime win his way through this? Hey, Tim Smith and Common Sense, we haven't heard from you. If you're busy, that's cool. But if you want to chime in, please chime in. But can Prime win his way into the SEC?
No.
Who was that?
I'm sorry.
That was Phil.
Okay, I'm sorry. Real quick, just to confirm.
I want to hear from Tim or Common Sense, but you're jumping the line.
I'm sorry, but I want to make sure we understand the question. Are you saying Prime as a coach, can he jump into the SEC, or can Prime get Colorado to be in the SEC? I just want to make sure.
Can Prime get Colorado by winning with Colorado into the SEC? Can Prime win? Can Colorado win its way into the SEC graces?
No.
I would say yes. I would say yes. And this is my reasoning for saying yes. It's kind of 50-50. Because I really want to say no. Because,
say no.
I would, but I'm gonna say yes, because if he's winning and he's going deep into the playoffs or maybe winning a natty, then if say for instance he signed another extension and he's still recruiting heavily, we already know that he's gonna bring the money there to Boulder, then it's that question of who, once he decides to step down, who would take over? Kind of like what Phil and DC was talking about earlier, because University of Texas, Alabama, LSU, it sells Texas A&M, these big money donor schools, it sells itself. So after Prime, then Colorado is just like JSU. It's back to business as normal. You know what I mean? So with a lot of, he'll have to bring some championships to Colorado in order to get into that SEC, because
is that
Well,
the
hey,
way?
don't
Is that
bring
the
up no
way that Colorado
HBCUs.
can rebrand itself? Can Coach Prime change the look of Colorado or the brand of Colorado? Okay, better question. Is that a way that Prime can rebrand Colorado so where the brand of Colorado supersedes his name?
that's
winning?
gonna
No,
no, because Prime name,
Is there any way?
no, Prime
no,
name
Harry,
now
no.
there is a way, Harry. I feel like if they're winning, if Colorado, if they're willing to put the money behind the school, not Prime, but behind the school, because like DC and them was talking about in field, these programs that are big, they're huge. The stadiums are big. We got high school stadiums here in Texas that got the same size stadium as Colorado. So I mean, everything would have to upgrade.
You being petty,
Tremendous.
not Tim. You being
I know
petty.
Oh,
that
I'm
was
sorry.
a shot right there.
That was a shot.
I'm about to say, come
That was
on,
fire.
man.
I didn't mean to say that out loud. My bad.
Come on, man.
But you
So-
speaking facts though. You speaking facts, but they're still petty as hell.
Hey,
Excuse me. I'm
if
sorry,
you
that's
go-
petty as heck.
If you go look at Allen High School and McKinney High
Yeah,
School
Katy,
football
Katy,
stadiums,
Texas. Yep.
yeah,
They
bro,
got some big stadiums. Yeah.
their stadiums are huge. But what I'm saying is everything will have to be upgraded tremendously, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, Harry, it's no amount of winning that Coach Prime. And look, I'm huge Coach Prime supporter, but there's no amount of winning that he could do that could win himself into the SEC. Like he could go undefeated for the next 5 years. The SEC not gonna welcome them with open arms and be like, "Come on in." And if Rick George is still around and they decided to make that decision, he would set the program back so far in the in the future, because once Coach Prime leaves, we're talking about cultural differences in the South compared to West Coast or Midwest or whatever you want to call Colorado. There's cultural differences. The South is very, very conservative. Colorado is very, very liberal on lots of things. So when you're talking about people supporting, when you're talking about the brand of SEC supporting, you got to think about the politics of that as well. It goes deeper than just football.
Let's change the question real quick, because we got 4 minutes to be up out of here. 1 o'clock is our hard out. So how can Coach Prime help Colorado by separating his brand from Colorado? That could that be done with win, where Colorado is playing like the 90s or the 89, 90s and go back to smash mouth football. If Colorado then starts to do that, would that help Colorado to rebrand itself as a football powerhouse and not think so much about Prime?
Can I tell you what I would do, Harry?
What would you do?
I absolutely, if they dominate this year and Prime leaves, you would need to have a Rob Livingston, somebody that the community already respects, to roll right off in there. That probably will work, because the CU community loves Rob Livingston. They probably will stay for him.
I ain't talking about Coach Prime leaving. How can Coach Prime help Colorado's brand separate Colorado's brand from his brand? That's the question I
He
want
got
to
he got he got to stop selling clothes that got Prime on it
Yep.
and start wearing
Yeah,
clothes that say Colorado.
at
Yep.
that point he can't be himself anymore. Like you would have to just give the sterilized answers at the podium. Like you would have to desensitize. Coach Prime would have to desensitize himself, sterilize himself, and just give basic
So basically, winning is not going to be
answers
able to
to
do this.
everything. No,
No,
winning, no.
no,
No,
The
because
more
they
he
want
wins, the more popular he becomes, right?
Yes.
Can I ask a quick
remember
question?
Deion is
Yeah.
one
Go
on one.
ahead, common sense.
Yeah. So, what would be the benefit to Colorado to even consider joining the SEC?
That's a good question.
recruiting,
I say none.
recruiting,
None.
recruiting. Carrie's right on the recruiting. You
I
put
would say,
him in
yeah,
there, he's
recruiting,
right.
right?
Recruiting,
And,
absolutely recruiting.
and Colorado wants to project this image of we want to play big boy football,
But
right?
recruiting only
But
helps when you win. Look at Oklahoma.
Not only when you win, though.
They followed behind Texas and got their butt smacked in the SEC. Look at their recruiting. They ain't up there in no top 10 where they usually be. They getting
hold
lower
on.
and lower.
But let's think about it like this. Why would the SEC? Why are we thinking that the SEC would want to go for Colorado when the Big Ten didn't want Colorado? When the Pac-12 broke up, Colorado was left holding the bag, and they had to go to the Big 12, right? So why would the SEC want to go for Colorado? The two biggest conferences, the two most dominant conferences, have already, pretty much said how they feel about Colorado. If
I would say,
Colorado was like what we thought it was, they would have been playing in the Big Ten right now, like USC and Oregon and Washington. And
that's
you
what I
start
I
would
looking
mean,
say.
The brand of Colorado is not big. Coach Prime brand is bigger than Colorado's brand right now.
Right, but I honestly, I absolutely could see, and I actually see them kind of making moves to two places. I see the Big 12 trying to steal. I see the SEC trying to steal TCU and Texas Tech, or may possibly Baylor in the future. I'm just being honest. Texas Tech is spending a lot of money, and I think they're saying, hey, we ready to get into this kind of arena of the big boy leagues. Colorado has to, if Colorado ever wants to have a chance, they have got to push all of their chips on the table now. Because once Prime leaves, and if you have a shot, you're probably not going to be able to get that brand. And you're right, that it would have to be where they restructure where Prime, what they'll call sterilizing. Folks, I'm not saying this to be a joke, but I've said this to Harry and Phil. If you, because I got my bachelor's in marketing, it's like this. If you're
DC's audio
can
went.
y'all hear me?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Can y'all still hear me? Can y'all hear me? All right. I'm not joking on Prime. I'm just going to say this in marketing. If you're McDonald's, which are you going to sell? The burger or the clown? Which one? That's what it comes down to. I respect that Prime brand is on the top, but at the end of the day I'm not calling him the clown, but they're not selling the burger. That's what I mean.
Now,
it's
why
a
you had to
product.
use that comparison though? Come on,
I know,
DC.
right? That hit a little
Come
weird,
on,
right? Because
man.
you're
Hey,
DC.
hey,
People already getting at you in the
He
comments.
hitting
You're
below
gonna
the
say
everybody
belt
you're
with
knows
gonna
that
sell the
one. Come
McDonald's.
clown or
on,
you're gonna
man.
sell the burger.
Yeah,
Everybody
I ain't
knows
gonna I ain't
McDonald's.
letting you get that all the way off, DC. Come on, man. That was below the belt.
yeah,
Oh man.
having DC for a father-in-law must be tough, man. Because I'm sure you be getting all kind of licks in. But
DC took a clean shot.
no, like damn, why your daddy keep talking to me like this, man?
Hey,
Uh,
y'all end on let's get final thoughts in, but I want to know. I want y'all to answer this question. Each person answer this question for final thoughts. It's a time for Colorado to start thinking post Deion and start separating the brand.
Yes, that's DC. I'm done. Great show.
DC, you go first. All right, DC, you got 30 seconds because I'm over it, my heart out.
Yes, they should. Great show, Harry.
Oh, that's it. You're not gonna give me any kind of sauce on it. All right. Okay, Phil. Your turn. You understand the question?
Yeah. I think yes, they do need to separate the brand because that gives you lasting power to be there once he leaves because inevitably he will. Closing remarks. Be blessed, not stressed. You're blessed to be a blessing. If you ain't blessing nobody else, then what's the point of you being blessed? From one black man to a bunch of other black men, I love you all. I know black men don't get to hear that a lot, but I love each and every one of y'all, and I just pray nothing but success and happiness and peace over y'all life today and until the end times. That's all I got to say.
Hey, Al Smith said the clown sells the burgers. Hey, common
Hey,
sense.
but he ain't lie. He ain't lie though. That's a valid
That's true.
point.
The clown does sell the burgers, but when you say the clown, it hits a little different. I'm just saying. Common sense. Is it time for Colorado to start thinking post Deion and to start separating the two brands? You got 30 seconds.
Nah, I don't think so, man. I don't think you start thinking about the next summer movie when you got a blockbuster on your hands. Sell as much popcorn as you can right now. Why the iron is hot? I mean, I don't know a movie theater in the world that has a blockbuster on their hands and is talking about next summer's blockbuster. They're trying to extract all the value that they can out of the existing movie that's in the theaters. I might even raise prices on popcorn, which I'm sure those tickets in Boulder are going up. You got to enjoy the ride while you can. Now, my only thing about them moving to the SEC, I don't think it's worth the potential recruiting advantage it might give them to move to the SEC. I think there are two things that Colorado can do to create that SEC field. They could create it via their out-of-conference schedule, like how everybody is buzzing about that Georgia Tech game. Trust me, as much as everybody thinks Colorado needs to go to SEC to get validated, there's a lot of SEC teams that will want to play Colorado as part of their out-of-conference schedule. I think they could do it that way and create some buzz. And then where is big boy football and college football right now? It is in the playoffs. When that 12-team playoff emerges, that will be the super conference. And if Colorado can find themselves in that playoff every single year, that's where big boy football is in college football right now. And that's my final thought.
Wow, that was. I like it. I like it. Now I see why Phil was giving you those flowers, man. I can.
Hey, see.
The
I'm
wisdom
a
is
good scout.
yeah. He's a good talent scout. The wisdom is poignant, and I appreciate that. JL Boxing, you have Phil also hold you at high esteem, so do not disappoint. so
how
the
am I
question,
supposed to come after Common Sense Buff?
I know. Try your
Let me
best.
go first, Harry. No. What I'll say is,
the question is, does Prime is it time for Colorado to start thinking post Deion and start separating the brands?
No, I'm with Common Sense Buff. The answer is no. Due to all the things that Common Sense Buff just talked about, you strike while the iron is hot. CU was running in the red before Coach Prime got there, so now you have an influx of money. So now you can better your university by utilizing that money that the football program is getting. You can up price every single thing. You can create even more buzz. If I'm the program, how do we create even more buzz? How do we redefine ourselves now that Shador and Travis and the other guys that help bring us back to prominence are gone? That would be my focus. What does the rebrand look like to make Colorado look even better and make Coach Prime look even better? I would not even consider going to the SEC or the Big Ten right now. I would stay put.
So you're saying instead of separating the brand from Prime, this should lean in even more on Prime.
Yes.
Okay, that's what's up. Hey man, y'all made this a great show today. The conversation was very mature. It was powerful. I enjoyed myself. I'm glad I went live today. Thank you guys for being a part of it, man. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day.
All right, man. Y'all be blessed, man.
Peace out, guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Have a great weekend too.